So as someone who has quit caffeine multiple times,
I'm going to quit caffeine for 30 days.
Quit caffeine completely.
This is gonna change my life. What if there was a magic pill that would make you live longer, improve your focus, alertness, your mood, well-being, increase your strength, your endurance? Well, if you told me all that, I'd be like, well, you're talking about sleep, right? No, we're talking about coffee, and in particular, caffeine. So hello and welcome. My name is Jonathan Potter, and this is Project Superhuman. Today we're going to be talking about coffee and caffeine. So I've looked at a dozen studies, listened to Andrew Huberman's podcast, and I listened to Michael Pollan's audiobook on caffeine. So what got me started on all of this is I got my biological age back from Tally Health. So Tally Health is a service that basically do a cheek swab. You send it in and they give back what your biological age is compared to your chronological age. So you can be younger than you actually are, or you can be older than you actually are. And then you fill out a survey and they give you a list of things you can improve, help you be healthier and be younger and live longer. And one of the things that was on my list was to drink coffee. Now, I'm not much of a coffee drinker. I'm not much of a caffeine consumer either. I've gotten good sleep in the past 3 years of my life that I have tons of energy and never really needed it. From time to time, I have consumed it, no more than maybe a day in a week or even a day in a month. And I've seen so many people say, hey, I've quit caffeine either forever or for 30 days. So there was something that was always in the back of my mind with like, I don't really need this. It seems like it's addictive. It seems like it will control my life. But with this information that I could live longer by drinking coffee, I decided to look into it. The Tally gave me 3 studies to look at and I read through them. So the first study is most promising. They developed a way to look at plasma proteins to predict chronological age. And then they looked at a bunch of lifestyle factors. The one that we're looking at is coffee consumption. So we can see that if you drink coffee 3 times a month, it's about a 2.72 age reduction. And if you drink coffee 3 times per day, it's a 5.64 age reduction. Now, I would definitely be 2 to 5 years younger in a heartbeat. Now, of course, this is a correlative study, so it doesn't tell us that coffee necessarily does this. It just tells us that people who drink that much coffee for some reason are younger. Now, the second study on there looked at ground coffee, instant coffee, and decaf coffee, which is actually really interesting that they had the decaf coffee because it lets us separate caffeine and coffee. So coffee in general reduced cardiovascular disease and it reduced all-cause /cardiovascular mortality risk. The coffee that had caffeine in it reduced cardiovascular arrhythmia risk. However, the decaf coffee did not do that. Now, this is good news because cardiovascular disease is one of the 4 horsemen of chronic diseases, things that will kill you in your late age. And it seems like the most benefits are between 2 and 3 cups of coffee per day. And the third study showed that moderate coffee consumption reduced the risk of death, though very similar to the second study. Since now I saw that coffee can potentially increase my lifespan, make me younger, be healthier, I started to explore any other health benefits of coffee and caffeine as they're tightly related. And I started to look for benefits that weren't related to performance. I saw reductions in cancer, so liver cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer. I saw a lower risk of type 2 diabetes, improved glucose metabolism and insulin sensitivity. I saw a lower risk of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and multiple scoliosis. Now, some of these effects do come from the coffee and some of them come from the caffeine. But the fact is that it can reduce all of the 4 horsemen. So yeah, I'm drinking coffee. Now, there was also some things that could be a danger to our health, and we're going to talk about that later when we talk about the dark side of caffeine. So after that, I started to drink a cup of coffee every day, and I instantly started to notice the performance-enhancing effects. So that's what I started to look into next, is how can it affect my performance? I was laser focused and dialed in. Now, the best place to explore this was Andrew Huberman's podcast. So I'm going to kind of sum that up really quickly. So caffeine increases dopamine and norepinephrine, which increases alertness, motivation, and drive. Caffeine improves mood and well-being, and there are some studies showing a reduced risk of depression. Caffeine binds to adenosine receptors, which makes us feel less tired. However, we're really just borrowing that energy from later. A caffeine dose should be 1 to 3 milligrams per kg of body weight. So for me, a cup of coffee is about perfect. You should consume caffeine 90 to 120 minutes after waking, ideally getting some morning light. So I go for a walk before I drink my coffee. This is to help reduce the afternoon crash that you would get. You should stop drinking coffee 12 hours before bed because the quarter life of caffeine is about 12 hours. Caffeine improves reaction time, so it reduces the amount of time to do a physical task or answer a question. It also improves our memory, both if you drink it before the task and afterwards. Improves our physical dexterity, power output, and endurance. Caffeine is also a reinforcer, which will mean that it will make you like the experiences associated for when you're taking that caffeine. This is why people start to enjoy the taste of coffee after drinking it. We'll talk about this more later. Huberman also mentions some of the health benefits that I've already talked about, including reducing asthma and improving ADHD. All in all, caffeine is a powerful tool to enhance physical and mental performance.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
So I got to the end of the week and I started to crave my coffee more. And if I hadn't had it yet, I started to want it. And now I started to understand why people would quit caffeine. Now, in my case, it's probably fairly minor. I've only been drinking it for a week and only a cup of coffee. But for anyone who has been drinking it longer, these addictive effects may be happening and you don't even know it. In both Huberman's podcast and the book Caffeine, it covers the reinforcing effects of caffeine. To explain this further, there was an experiment done on bees. They had flowers with caffeine and flowers without caffeine. So if bees went to the flowers with caffeine and got the nectar, they would start to prefer those flowers more and more and more. They even came back to those flowers when there was no more nectar left, basically wasting their time. And this reinforcing effect in humans can make you enjoy the taste, the smell, people you're around, the mug you're drinking caffeine out of. Whatever got you the caffeine makes you enjoy it more. This is all happening subconsciously and you're not even aware of it. The good news is you can use this to your advantage, however. And there were 2 studies done with this effect. One on kids eating plain yogurt and another on exercise. So in the experiment with the kids, they put a little bit of caffeine in plain yogurt and other flavors. And those kids started to prefer those flavors, including plain yogurt. And I've eaten plain yogurt. It's pretty gross. So that's might be a little evil, but you could get your kids to eat anything by just adding a little bit of caffeine. And what's scary about this is that soda has caffeine in it. So yeah, soda companies might be evil. And in the second study, there was people who consumed caffeine before exercise. And it turns out that they enjoyed the exercise more by taking caffeine. It made the exercise a more pleasant and enjoyable experience. So you can use this effect yourself to help you enjoy activities or food. If I drink coffee when I'm working on YouTube or I'm working on research, I'll start to enjoy it more. However, it's best not to overuse this and use it every single time. But you can help use it to help motivate you towards certain tasks that you want to get done. Now, the second big downside of caffeine is its effects on sleep. Huberman recommends no more than 12 hours before bed you have caffeine. And Matthew Walker, a sleep scientist, says this as well. This is because caffeine has a quarter life of about 12 hours for most people, which means about a quarter of that caffeine is still active in your system 12 hours later. Now, the caffeine may not stop you from getting to sleep, but it will affect your deep sleep and overall quality of sleep. Don't risk your sleep for caffeine. In the long term, getting quality sleep will be more powerful than anything caffeine will do for you. There were also other negative effects I saw, such as the rate of nutrition absorption and some diuretic effects. These can be offset by drinking fluids with salt and just eating more high quality nutritious foods. There was also some results of individuals with increased heart disease risk, as well as maybe some cancer. However, these seem to be just in certain individuals, and it just reminds us that you need to take an individual approach to your health, and what may work for some people may not work for you, and you'll need to adjust that for yourself. And after all this, it seems like the best way to keep yourself into control and to avoid some of these negative effects is to cycle your caffeine. So what Andrew Huberman says, and what I think is probably a good idea, is taking your caffeine every other day. So drink caffeine, then don't drink caffeine, don't drink caffeine. Other methods may be taking a week off every once in a while, or just drinking coffee 1 day per week and then only drinking it other days if you feel like you need it. This will also help with the sleep effects, because you'll have some nights that are caffeine free, so you don't have to worry about the effects of caffeine caffeine is having on your sleep. And since we saw that some of the health benefits and longevity effects are from the coffee itself and not from the caffeine, you can drink decaf on your days off, or you might even switch to tea, which has lower amounts of caffeine in it and has other health benefits. After all this research, I personally am definitely going to develop some kind of strategy on my coffee and caffeine consumption, probably every other day, drinking decaf on the days that I don't, or switching out for tea. So I think we learned a lot here. You can check down below any of the resources that I talked about and everything that I covered. If you want me to cover another topic like tea, for example, comment down below. And if you want more health-related topics, subscribe. I'm just getting started. And with that, let's go out and improve ourselves.